Flashbacks. Local legends.
Well, folks, there's a lot of things happening in the golf world, so we thought it was appropriate to get on a golfing guru, and he can explain what's exactly happening out there and his own career, etc. in golf. Welcome aboard, Craig.
Thanks, Malcolm. Nice to be on board.
So, yeah, give us a brief resume of your illustrious career, etc., involvement in the golfing world, mate.
Okay. My playing career, the irony is sort of 30 years on. I was probably best at about 18 years old. Played a lot of state golf, represented the state and captained the state quite a few times. I won an Australian championship. But coming out of school, I had to make the decision whether I went down the pro path or go to uni. And probably the kicker for me is there was guys that were better players than me who had taken the step, but I could see they were struggling. So I made the decision, 30 years later, I probably regret some of it, but decided to go down the university path. So still played golf at a high level, amateur career, probably a lot of pennant golf, and played in successful Grange Golf Club, Simpson Cup teams, won 5 Simpson Cups. Probably finished my actual playing career at that level around 2000, but I've always been active in golf, and recent years rekindled the golf and by getting involved with professional caddying, doing it in and out of corporate life. But was in the US in 2020, about to embark on a LPGA caddying experience when COVID hit. So kind of that put an end to that. But I've always been highly active in sports right from a young age, and golf, has always been the passion, but certainly footy and cricket and tiddlywinks, anything really sport, I'll watch it.
Yep, likewise.
What was your favourite course here in Adelaide before you embarked on over in the US?
Actually, my home club's Grange, but I think personally the best golf course in Adelaide's always been Royal Adelaide. You got the top 5, nothing comes close to them. Royal Adelaide, Grange, both, Kooyonga and Glenelg. Personally, I probably would rank them RA, Cooey, Grange West, Glenelg, Grange East. But, opinions are like noses. Yep. Everyone's got one.
Yep, exactly.
Good call. And what about in the US? Obviously, you got a chance to have a round on a couple of their courses over there?
Well, yeah. So originally when I went over there, it was in Phoenix. And the first event, I actually caught up and stayed with Nigel Spence, who's a very well-known Australian golfer. He's now nicely set up as a director of golf at the most exclusive country club in Arizona. But I stayed with him for 10 days. Things changed very, very quickly. That was literally when COVID broke. So when the caddying got cancelled, was able to play Phil Mickelson's home course and a couple others, Desert Forest, and had a look around Desert Mountain. I mean, Phoenix is like the mecca of golf in the US. It's totally different with the desert golf, but brutal. You hit the golf ball 5 meters offline and it's a reload because you're not going into the cactus to find it. But it's pretty unique experience, but amazing. It was got to do a few things that weren't planned, like horse riding in the desert and that type of thing. So it was brilliant.
How about for me, the home of golf, as a person who isn't a golf fanatic, but the golf tournament that no way and I will miss any year is Augusta. How about, have you had anything to do with Augusta, mate?
No, I haven't been fortunate enough to get to Augusta yet, but certainly know plenty who have, and they say, it's a bucket list, you have to go. I have been to St Andrews, but we're talking 20 years ago now. I didn't get to play. I was actually there on my honeymoon of all things, and had to make sure 2 things. Went to Liverpool and saw Anfield and saw Liverpool play, but also St Andrews. Played the Himalayas putt-putt, that was about it, but got the photo of the road hole bunker and whatnot. But yeah, Augusta definitely one day. whether I'm caddying there, that would be the ultimate goal. But yeah, even if it's a spectator on a practice day, just to be there. Everyone says the same thing. It's a lot hillier than it looks on TV, but so is any golf course. So,
are there any other golf courses around the world that you desperately want to get to?
Well, Pebble Beach would definitely be a good one. I mean, the US Women's Open is being held there July 6 to 9, and it's kind of known amongst the Australian girls that I'm available. If the phone were to ring, I'd probably hop on a plane to get there, but timeline now, it's getting a bit too close, but so it's probably unlikely. But yeah, Pebble Beach definitely. I mean, all the famous ones. I'd really love to go to Scotland and just play the British Open rotation courses. Had a look at a couple, but never actually played them. So it's like anything. There's great golf courses everywhere in the world, and especially more and more being built in some pretty unique places, like Kangaroo Island's coming up. So
Yeah.
That's a brilliant project. Obviously, I know Wade Ormsby's heavily involved with that, but the guys who designed that, they've already proven themselves with King Island golf courses. So that'll attract a totally different tourist to South Australia.
Also, Terence, you did have a few big names lined up for caddying. You're a bit unlucky there, mate.
Yeah, caddying is a real fickle thing. It's opportunity and there's no guarantees. It's not like you sign a 3-year contract like AFL. You could be caddying for, it doesn't matter who it is, but you could be caddying for them and all of a sudden you have a falling out over something minor, and it's very much a verbal agreement. You could be get the don't come Monday, but that could happen on a Wednesday. So and vice versa. Like there's players around the traps that know that I'm back interested in doing some, but probably realistically I won't do any now until the Australian summer starts. So I'll probably look to do Australian Open and Australian PGA. Who that's for? That's in the next few months. I'll let those that I know are already got gigs maybe coming back from the US.
Yep.
Reading your acquaintance with some guys I used to play against, that would be pretty cool. Who have made their millions and still continue to play on the US PGA Tour and lining up to play Champions Tour, which kind of gives away the age group now. So,
did the pandemic rekindle your drive for wanting to be a caddy?
It's interesting. I mean, I came back from the US and I'd really was driven. I'd been in the corporate world, and there was an unscratched itch, I guess, from when I was a teenager that I really went to uni really to set up my own business and maybe get into golf, managing either a club or a facility or player management whatsoever. When I kind of got back in that world and got accepted, it's very cliquey. They weed out people very quickly, and got accepted by some of Australia's up and coming players. That kind of reassured me that okay, maybe there's something in this. So COVID put a dampener on that, and then I suppose I've spent the last couple of years doing a reset. Went into the corporate world and realised, you know what, I think I need to go back to where I was 4 years ago or 3 years ago. So yeah, I'm sort of pursuing that and seeing where it takes me.
Okay, where for the layman at the moment is Live Golf and the golfing world situated? Because it seems to be pretty hard to follow what's actually happening, and some say it's continuing, some say it's finishing. So give us your view there, mate. I'm sure you've got far more knowledge on that than.
Yeah, sure. Well, as I've said on some other radio interviews, local radio and even nationally, it's an interesting time for golf. It'll make a good movie one day because you couldn't exactly say golf is well in the news, compared to AFL or Formula One or EPL, NBA, etc. But currently, it's changing daily. From the announcement where the Live backers for the Saudi Arabians who have injected all the money. Basically, it is a takeover from Live Golf to the PGA Tour, but it's quite complicated. For someone who doesn't understand golf, the best way to describe it is the Live have come in with an offer that's too good to refuse. The Saudi Arabian or the fund have actually got war chest of 650 billion US dollars, which is just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, get you through the week. Yep.
Put it in perspective, like Australia's richest person is currently valued about 30 billion US. So yeah, he's got it. I actually use the analogy. If you look at Formula One, they injected money about 4 years ago to Formula One, and you notice obviously initially there's Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Dubai. 4 years ago there were no Grand Prix in the US. Now there's 4. So their aim, and I mean I'll stay out of the politics and religion, but from a sporting point of view, the injection of money has only made Formula One better. All of a sudden, you know, you've got a captive audience of, what is it in the US now, 300 million plus. They've seen the opportunity with golf to do the same thing. So effectively, moving forward, there'll be a world tour. PGA will run the day-to-day operations, but basically the Saudi Arabians are funding it. So whilst currently you've got PGA Tour, the European Tour, Asian Tour, Live, the way I see it going forward will be, it'll be basically, Live will probably get renamed. It'll probably all fall under the PGA banner, but there'll probably be 3 or 4 events across the world on any given week. So the PGA event will be, you know, the main one. But if there's a Live event, you'll see guys like Rory McIlroy. Now, I quite openly say, it's only my opinion, but I believe Rory will play in Adelaide in February next year.
Okay. Well, that'd be a big get.
That would be a huge get.
Massive. And the other one that I dropped was, and this is not public knowledge yet, but you can break it on the podcast first. You've heard it first. Is there will be a second event in Queensland next year. Dates are still not finalised, but it'll be at Sanctuary Cove, which will allow Adam Scott to basically play with Cameron Smith because that's his home course. Yep. And yeah, that's pretty well locked away. Not public knowledge yet, but it'll come out in due course.
So the Live Golf seems to have attracted a younger audience and a more party sort of atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the best analogy for golf is cricket. You look at Test cricket, and well, I mean that last Test match was brilliant, and you know reinvigorate the sport. But you know, Test cricket in 2020. I mean, you know, you were not taking your kids to a Test match. It's for the traditionalists, and golf's probably a bit the same. You know, 4-day events. They're not Groundhog Day, but they're exciting. If you want to go and watch a certain player or, you know, be there for the atmosphere, it'll attract, you know, the golfer. What Live Golf did here in Adelaide is it attracted the non-golfer, the guys that flew into Adelaide with their mates, and there's probably some mates back in Sydney or Melbourne that goes, oh, no, I don't want to go. And then all of a sudden now they're regretting the fact they weren't here.
A bit like gather around.
Yeah, exactly right. I was listening to a lot of, I didn't do any volunteering or anything that week. I was there as Joe Public myself, and it was deliberate because I just wanted to soak up the atmosphere and get an idea of what Live was all about. 2 things I noticed, and I knew some of the players and caddies. The players were so relaxed. They were engaging with the crowd, and they're trying to build a profile for the Live. But it was not a party atmosphere. Yeah, there was a bit of background music, and okay, there was the party hole, which, you know, there was aspects of that. Even I go, yeah, okay, don't agree with that.
Yep.
You know, volunteers getting hit in the head by beer cans and all that. That's not on.
Bit over the top.
And that won't happen. That won't happen next year, I guarantee you. But you know, the actual event. I'll give you a prime example. My girlfriend, never been to golf, wasn't interested. After 2 days, she's like, "Oh, you sound like you're having a lot of fun. Can you get me a ticket?" I'm like, "Of course I can." So she came along for 3 hours, and has already said to me she wants to go to 3 days next year. So she just loved it. She goes, "Oh my God, it's totally different to how I pictured it." You know, it's
it's like, interesting perspective, isn't it? Yeah,
a bit like lawn bowls. Everyone thought lawn bowls is for old people, but when you actually play it yourself, you go, "Hang on, this is a really good game."
Pete's pretty pumped up for that mention because Pete's the big lawn bowl. He's the lawn bowl man, mate. So yeah,
absolutely.
Well,
agree with you there.
Yeah, well, everyone thinks lawn bowls is for, you know, the plus 60s, but when you actually do it, you look at the success of night owls now. Like golf's no different. Like, you know, golf is addictive. Doesn't matter if you're a hacker, never played it before. You hit that one shot and you flush it. You go, "Oh, hang on, I want to do that again." And it doesn't matter if you've played 30 years like me, it's the most frustrating sport in the world. But even on a bad day, all of a sudden who knows, you might have a hole in one.
I'll let you on a little story. I'm a bit of a keen golfer myself, and my grandparents played quite a bit and had putt out in their backyard. And one day, a mate of mine said, "Come on, let's go down to the par 3 and we'll have a go." Happened to be a public holiday, and we get up to the first hole, and there's probably a lineup of about 10 or 12 people waiting to have their shot. People are duffing them and clubbing them and absolutely nailing it. And my mate looks at me and goes, "I don't know whether we can do this." And he goes, "You go first." No, I said, You go first. I don't want to make a mistake. In the end, I did go first. Sure enough, I hit the pin on the first hole from about 120 metres away, and ever since then I've been hooked. So I totally get it.
Yeah, well, and actually the hardest shot in golf is the first shot of any round. It doesn't matter who you ask, even you ask one of the pros, they tee it up in a pro event, and the old heart rate's going, and they've got the little shakes going, and it's like, whew, okay, breathe out. I haven't sniped it and killed anyone and all that type of thing. So
well, when I nailed it, I looked around.
To everyone.
I looked around at my mate, and he's just hand in head, going, "Oh my God, you made me look like an idiot," because we hadn't done it before, and he ended up getting his about 60 or 70 metres straight down the middle, and I think he was quite happy in the end.
Well, there's an old saying in golf: is every shot pleases someone.
Yep.
So if your mate hits a bad shot, that's pleased you, and if you hit a good shot, it pleased you as well.
Absolutely.
Every shot pleasing someone.
So just getting back to the Live Golf, would you liken it to a little bit like what tennis went through and also World Series cricket went through, when obviously there was a bit more money involved and a little bit of a different structure to it?
Yeah, definitely. I think not so much tennis. I think they tried it and failed, but cricket definitely, I have likened it to the Kerry Packer scenario. Now, the issues around golf are totally different to cricket. I mean, money certainly wasn't the issue. The reality of the PGA Tour is the demographic it's attracting was the 50 pluses. The Live guys have really identified, okay, that's all well and good, but now, post the Tiger era, golf is in a fantastic place. I mean, there will always be superstars coming along, like, my prediction, Minwoo Lee, he's Australia's next superstar. I was there when he won his first event 3 years ago, caddying, and now, he just had a great result. I would be backing him for the British Open coming up. That's his style of game, pure ball striker. He's the best ball striker I've actually caddied in a group with. Just the noise off his driving iron is unbelievable. And you would appreciate, Peter, that we hit the ball and it goes clunk. Yep. When he hits it, it goes. It's just a pure noise. So I mean, the Live guys are really, really trying to attract a younger audience. Now that it's coming together, what will happen, and it's just come out today, or they've just released, they're going to have a relegation system in Live. So the top 24 players are guaranteed to start next year. But from 25 to 48, there's going to be criteria. So certainly the bottom 5 players will be relegated, but in between 25 to 43, they could be replaced. So that's going to mean the fields are going to be strengthened now that there's no ramifications for, say, if Adam Scott were to play in Queensland previously, he might have got a suspension or a fine. Now he'll be free to come and go. So he might only play 1 or 2 events per year, but being that he's a PGA loyalist, but particularly that Sanctuary Cove event, I would put my house on it that he plays.
And with the obviously the ramifications, as you just mentioned there, how does that factor in when players are trying to plan their year as far as, well, I can play in this event, but I'm not allowed to play in that event? What's the feeling around the golf scene that the PGA were sort of in effect restraining of trade or restraining of players to play in those tournaments?
Well, the biggest the restriction or the penalty effectively for the best players in the world was that the Live golf events weren't counting for world ranking points. So, your guys like Phil Mickelson, Brooks Koepka, DJ, they were all ranked in the top, or maybe not Mickelson, but certainly DJ and Brooks were in the top 10 in the world. all of a sudden they're playing live events, so all their ranking points from previous years drop out, and they're all of a sudden ranked, 150, 170 and declining. That's had ramifications. So guys, it's only literally this morning, like Lee Westwood will miss his first Open for 29 years. He's played 29 years consecutively. Now he won't play this year. Sergio Garcia, who should be a walk-up start, is having to go through pre-qualifying. The powers to be have got a lot of work to do, and it'll probably all come out later in the year. But world rankings is the biggest one. How do they juggle the different events? So the way I see it working is the PGA Tour events will be like for the elite. Then there might be another PGA event, which whatever they call it. Let's say category A is called the World Tour, for argument's sake. Then there might be the PGA event, which is more for the guys that are, ranked between 70 and 200. Then there could well, at the same time, be another event over in Europe, and certainly there'll be an event in Asia. So the Asian Tour will be a feeder tour for the Live Tour, but that's all probably going to get renamed. So it's an interesting time ahead. It's changing daily. My personal opinion, it's fantastic for the sport. It gives long-term investment, and it will certainly attract, anything from 10-year-olds to 30-year-olds who may or may not have played golf before. It'll attract them towards the sport.
And huge news in golf today, mate.
Well, and that kind of, so the President's Cup's coming back to Australia in 2028 at Kingston Heath. Now, that to, just the sports lovers might not sound like much, but that just gives more reinforcement to everything I just said. That means, okay, the President's Cup is still on the agenda. The Ryder Cup will be on the agenda. The players it'll be the strongest teams from those regions. So, Ryder Cup this year will be diminished, unfortunately, despite, the Live guys, particularly Europe, they've come out and said they probably won't consider your Garcias and Stensons and those guys who, whether they're walk-up starts or not, they've had a lot of, and Ian Poulter, missed the Ryder Cup himself, the postman. The Americans have come out, Brooks would have to get a start in DJ, but they're a bit more inclined to have them. But, Australia will have the best players in the world coming here, which I know I certainly have been over to Royal Melbourne when I was 2011. The only time I've physically seen Tiger play golf. And that was a pretty cool experience. Had to go about 3 or 4 holes ahead of him to see him, but you got be like I'm looking at him right now in my office, Michael Jordan, seeing him live, or I can say yes, Tiger Woods was within 6 feet of me, and I went full fan child.
The word is he said he saw Craig Martin, mate. That's the word.
Wow, he goes, who's that Smithers bloke?
Yeah, exactly. That bloody Port supporter. He wanted to shoot you. Fair enough, too. Anything else to add, Craig?
Oh, I just think, it's a great time for golf. To any of your listeners out there that have an interest in sport, just get on the socials and start following PGA Tour, Live Golf. But also, coming into the Australian summer, there's going to be a fantastic buzz around the Australian Open and PGA, because now you'll probably find that we will get not just Cam Smith coming back to defend. There'll be the who's who of Australian golf, and maybe a couple of big internationals will make the time to come down, because I can see the Australian Open and the PGA in the future being part of this World Tour.
Are we seeing, obviously, the excitement, I suppose, around Live and PGA, and obviously all the publicity? Are we seeing it at the coalface at club level?
Well, COVID had a big say in that. Golf memberships have gone through the roof, because golf was one of the few activities which met the criteria you could still exercise. There were obviously restrictions about what you could do with flag sticks and everything else, but apart from the lockdown periods in here in Adelaide, we were able to play golf pretty much the whole way through, and particularly interstate. I was just talking to someone in Queensland. He owns a resort up there, and they were doing about 24,000 rounds per year. He said currently they're doing about 37,000. So it's been a massive increase in popularity. Even where you could be a walk-up start to play somewhere like the Glades or not so much Sanctuary Cove because they've gone really private, but now you got to book well in advance because I've just recently tried to book some stuff for some footballers and try to get on. I was like, oh, okay, you can play at 2:30 or you can play at 3:30. And I was like, wow, okay. So the popularity is booming. The women in sport, there's a lot more girls getting involved. Junior golf is really booming. I know ones that I've previously been involved with, but I'm no longer involved officially at Grange. That their junior clinics are basically booking out, so kids are getting involved, and that's probably a spin-off they might have been to live golf with their mum and dad, and I want to have a go. So they're making it fun. So it's changing the mould of the way golf is perceived in the global environment.
And Malcolm mentioned that you're a footy supporter, a Port supporter. Take us through some of your. I'm sure you catch up with a few of the players every now and then. Take us through some of those exploits.
You might be able to reveal a story from about a prominent Port player from the past, actually.
Yeah, well, actually, I've been at Port training today, just taking my notes for some local identities, but also a Facebook group. But so nothing major to report from today. It was all stock standard. But so 10 years ago, there's a famous Travis Boak story. Now, some people listening to this might go, yeah, whatever. But you can get some of the people involved in this story that will verify it. But 10 years ago, there's obviously a bit of speculation about Boakey going home, and Port were going through a period of hurt. And obviously, don't need to go into that. We all know the reasons behind it. But I just happened to be going to a conference in Queensland on a Sunday morning. Now, Port Adelaide had played Friday night from memory, and Crows had played away in Melbourne, I presume. My flight to the Gold Coast got cancelled, and I got transferred to Melbourne. So I arrived in Melbourne Airport, minding my own business. I've got about 15 minutes before my connecting flight. As I'm standing there, across the loudspeaker, it was, would the following passengers please make their way to, let's say, gate number 12. Mr. Selwood, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Bartell, and Mr. Scott. And I'm thinking, well, those names are familiar. Yep. And sure enough, running past me go the four guys I just mentioned, all wearing civvies. And I looked up and I go, oh, where are they going? Oh, it's a flight to Adelaide. Now, at the time, I was not prominent, but I would text the radio stations with Michelangelo and Cornsey and Rowie back then. And I'm thinking, well, no, there must be underage championships on. So I quickly looked it all up. No, there's nothing on. And I was like, well, why would they be going to Adelaide on Sunday morning? So anyway, long story short, I put two and two together. I was like, hang on, maybe they're going to see Boakey. Nah, couldn't be that. So looked at the time, and it just so happened it was 11:30 back in Adelaide, which Michelangelo Rucci was doing the Sunday roast at the time. And I flicked him a text message. I said, don't know if there's anything in this, but these four guys just on their way on a flight right now to Adelaide. Are they coming to see Boakey? You know, and that was it. I then hopped on a plane to the Gold Coast, thinking, oh, I wonder what's gone on there. By the time I got off the plane on the Gold Coast, Michelangelo had actually gone to air with it, and just so happened that good old Tommy Wren and the cameraman who I knew, but unfortunately he's had some medical issues since that time, but they just happened to be in the Channel 9 newsroom, and my mate, the cameraman, heard it. And Tommy was the young reporter at the time, on a hunch, how about we go down to Adelaide Airport? So they've rocked up unannounced TV crew and basically caught the boys arriving at the airport, and they were more than surprised. But anyway, it was later proven that, yes, they were there to see Travis Boak. So, and obviously that story went national very quickly. So it was quite interesting, and I keep reminding Tommy I made his career.
Fair enough too.
Yeah, fair. You've done well. Who you know, not what you know.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things. That one was a hunch. I mean, and well, I was right.
No, well played.
And you'd be pretty happy with Port Adelaide at the moment?
No, we won't worry about
okay,
that.
we haven't got enough time? Okay, sorry, mate.
I'm pretty Actually, well, just on that, I'm pretty happy that Travis is still around.
Yeah, exactly.
And he still will play for at least another 2 years. But yes, Porter going very well.
All right. No, you're definitely in with a chance, as much as I hate to say it, and I reckon Butters is the best player in the game at the moment. So, Craig, greatly appreciated coming on, and I'm sure we will touch base and keep in contact with what's happening in the golfing world.
Yeah, anytime, Malcolm. If you letting into a major event or if any news comes up, you know where to find me.
Absolutely. We'll give you a call straight away.
Greatly appreciated, mate.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, mate.